This is my 7-inch Nextion display. And yeah, that was me about 48 hours ago. At that time, I hadn't realized that this piece of garbage known as the Nextion 7-inch display was actually a piece of trash. I had been working on this project all day. I had a complete video. Man, I had the whole thing dialed in, including all sorts of like cool montages and wiring and everything. And it wasn't until I got all the way to the end that I found out that this was just a big waste of time. So here's the problem. You go into this whole thing thinking, oh yeah, I could build an absolutely super cool graphically user interface that looks like this that's above me. I'm like, yeah, buttons and all sorts of cool stuff and gadgets, and it'll update and I have cool icons and things. And you know what? It's all just a bunch of lies. Well, not really. I mean, you can do that, and it probably would work pretty well. And don't get me wrong. It's not that it doesn't look visually appealing. It's that the backside of this and having to have it communicate with an Arduino is an absolute nightmare. Yep, that's it. An absolute nightmare, because guess how this whole thing works? Just like most people, I got lured in by the fact that this connector was just supposed to look like it was great because it had 5 volts, and then it had an RX pin, and then it had a TX pin, and then of course it had a ground pin. Just perfect, because I could connect the 5 volts to the Arduino, I could connect the ground to the Arduino, and then of course using these 2 pins up here I could do RX to TX, and I could do TX to RX. Looks perfect, doesn't it? But here's the kicker. So let's say you're kind of motoring along and you're like, oh, I'm going to put a button right here, and I'm going to put another button right here. Let's just call that one B1. Let's call this one B2. And let's just say that this one, let's say that this one does on and this one does off. Well, that looks cool, right? Because then we just take our pins and we just have them go over here to the Arduino. And then we have that 2-wire connection that we've all dreamed about. But here's the problem. For every single button that you have here, you need to send a particular command over to the Arduino, which means that the Arduino needs to keep track and say, oh, well, I've got button 1, and then I've got button 2, and then I need to know the state of button 1, and I need to know the state of button 2, and I need to make sure that all of the hexadecimal codes that might be sent over, which is like 0xB, or maybe that is 0x, F or whatever. And then of course, I can't forget that after the end of this stuff, I need to send this particular code 3 times, which is 0xFF. And that's what it says. Oh, yep, that's the end of the string. I'll tell you what though, this whole thing is absolutely trash because I have to keep track of all these stinking variables in the backside of an Arduino, when guess what? All I have to do is just basically say, no, I'm not doing that. Instead, we're going to have the Arduino control everything. And instead, it's going to be controlling the Wi-Fi. It's going to be controlling the HMI. And you know what? It's going to control everything. Everything. Because you know what? Having just one controller is just about plenty. And the worst part of it all is that this stinking computer's program lured me back onto my Windows partition. Ew! So without further delay, let's go ahead and talk about how this thing saved the day. Let's talk a little bit about the layout. So I decided that I was going to put 2 LCD screens onto this particular device. Now, why did I choose that? Because I had 2 of them, and they both had an I2C backpack thing. And so, I don't know, going from having a big 7-inch Nextion display to having some LCD screens that are, I think this one's a 20x4, and then this one is a 16x2, was kind of a downgrade. But what that means is that I would prefer to have more space to kind of show the things that I wanted. I also decided that I was going to include this particular 12 position switch, as that is something that I really wanted. I wanted to have that nice clicking sound. And every time it clicks, I actually have a nice like buzzer sound thing inside the box that actually goes off every time that it goes, it switches. That is so satisfying. Now, I also decided that I was going to include these two rotary encoders from SparkFun. These are the quick twists, and so they actually have a button that's on them as well. So you have a button along with like basically 360-degree rotation on these. It's perfect. I love these things. I don't have them doing anything right now, but I think I'm going to have them do some things like maybe menu toggling, and maybe this one being something like, increasing or decreasing a value on there. Haven't quite got there yet, but either way, right now, they're just there and we'll use them. Next up is this green button here, and this is going to be my commit button or my on or off button. And as you saw in the intro here, it actually turns on and off things. Right now, as you see that it's actually, scheduled or selected to the mode 1, which is the light that I have sit over here, and it works pretty well. And of course, it has that nice beep sound that comes with pushing the button too. This is actually an industrial one. I got this from a previous employer. They were kind of just throwing them out. And so this is a great button. I mean, it's an awesome button. I mean, I'll show you a little bit more of that on the back side of this thing. And then, of course, the most important thing that we have is this particular thing down here, which is my vertical linear actuator with haptic feedback and gravity return. It's a lamp cord. All right, on the back side here, we've got our Arduino R4. We've got our two screens that are running the I2C bus protocol, and both of them are piping into this particular bus setup that I've got using the Wago wire clips. Now, those are all being fed into the 5 volts bus, which is right over here on this particular screw shield, and they worked pretty well. I was actually very happy with how well the I2C protocol worked with these Wago wire clips. I did not expect that. Next up, we've got our 12 position switch right up here. And as you can see, these clump of white wires is running all the way into the Arduino. And those are taking up pins 0 through, I believe, 11. And those are going to be run on the low side. So I am using active low logic. If you look straight up here specifically, you can see that a black wire is on the COM right now. So what's happening is that this has an input pull up on the Arduino, and that's what's basically feeding the information there. Because before, I had a couple problems with the running it traditional style where the power was going into a common on the actual 12 position selector switch, and then it would run out. It would show a bunch of different ones that actually have been turned on. And so using active low logic really helps make this thing work better. What's really cool about the R4 is actually that these two quick twists from SparkFun run on 3.3 volts. And if you know anything about the Arduino R4, it's a 5-volt board. However, on the front side of these boards, there's actually a quick connection system. And you can see there's a small amount of wires that are running right here. And that's another I2C bus, and that actually runs on 3.3 volts. This was so cool. I really like the Arduino R4 for this particular reason. The 5 volts, the awesome I2C bus protocol that you can use for both on the 5 volt and on 3.3 volt. This thing is sweet. Then, of course, we got our industrial switch right there. Main power is coming in from here. And, of course, the little beeper is right here as well. And those are taking up different pins that are on this whole thing. I know that the selector switch took, 0 through 11. I think 13 has the buzzer. And I know for a fact that 12 is going to be this particular button switch right here. So that's really kind of the nuts and bolts of this HMI. The only other things that are going on are this Meanwell, 110 volt AC to 5 volts DC, which I wanted that because then it just took a lot of pressure off of the Arduino's power supply. And then of course I have that all running into a Wago wire clip. And then here is of course our vertical linear actuator down here that is controlling basically the mains voltage that's coming in. That's really it. And that is really the beauty behind using something like this, which is looks like it's out of an old space movie, Lost in Space back in the 1960s. But the thing about it is that it works. It's easy to do, and you don't have to sit there and have complicated libraries or complicated things to do this. It all works right off of the board. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, that matters more, especially in an industrial environment or one that you value reliability first. You should always be looking for the simple use of these things and not looking for that complicated touchscreen every single time. And this is probably a valuable lesson for me as well, to know that, hey, simplicity is the best option every time.
So I hope you enjoyed today's video, as it was a little bit more of a brief one, but you know what? That's what happens when you're working with complicated things. And if you'd be so kind as to leave me a like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. And as always, God bless, and we'll see you next time. Other than the beep, it's kind of fun, isn't it?